Mike, check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector here, and I just want to talk a little bit about game hunting in the fall because it's always easier to do in the summer because you're able to do a number of different things. The yard sales are huge, right? Even though I don't typically hit up a lot of yard sales, they're plentiful, especially when it's like spring, summer, and even early fall. You still may be able to run into some yard sales. The other thing is flea markets, right? Outdoor flea markets are plentiful in the spring, summer, and fall because typically in most parts of the country, that's when the weather is at its best. So those will be ready and available for you to go find items, pick out games. And so that's part of the reason why we typically do a lot of our hunting at that time. Another thing that makes game hunting easier in the spring and summer is that that's typically when a lot of people are transitioning out, right? People are either moving out of their current location. Students are leaving and going away to college, so they're giving up a lot of things. A lot of things are being sold, spring cleaning. So there's just a lot more opportunity at a local level when you think about yard sales, flea markets, and then just people moving. So this creates a challenge during this time of the year because we're about a week, I think, away from it being officially fall. Even though it's already starting to feel like fall in most parts of the country, the temperatures are dropping. The mornings are a lot cooler. The days are getting shorter, which is always sad for me. But the sun is setting a lot sooner. So, things are kind of changing and game hunting does become harder during this time of the year. And so we often find ourselves wondering, okay, well, if you're wanting to build a collection or add to your collection, how do you go about doing it? Where do you go? What are your options? So I'll just share a little bit about what I do to continue the hobby and to just do it in a productive way. So for me, typically, fall and winter seasons have been a time where I sell and consolidate in order to add value pieces to my collection. So even looking at this stack of games here, you'll see a lot of lower end games in terms of value, right? Dragon Age, Rise of the Argonauts, King of Fighters. And a lot of these I did add to the collection. But once I kind of go back and do like my fourth quarter assessment of my collection, there are some of these games I'll probably bundle together to trade for something of a much higher value. I have no problem taking 100 games into a game store and trading it in for one really expensive game. I've done trades like that to add pieces like a complete in box Demon Crest to my collection. I've done things like that to add a number of just like, you know, highly collectible pieces to my collection, both on the video game side and on the console side. So I have no problem doing things like that. And that's one of the things that I do. And I just try to maximize the deals and promotions between places like GameStop as well as my local game stores. So for those of you who don't know, GameStop is going to be launching their Pro Week, and I think this time around Pro Week is going to be lasting for 2 weeks. So I know that during Pro Week, GameStop typically offers a more on the trading credit. Sometimes they'll offer an additional 25 or 35% depending on what it is you're trading in. So that might be a good time to trade in certain games to GameStop because not every place will take everything. There are certain retro game stores that I go to that actually want sports games if they're old enough. But then a place like GameStop may not accept those games, right? And then you have certain game stores that might pay more for certain items than GameStop would. Or you have a situation where, like I noticed with some retro game stores, like mom and pop shops, they don't want anything that's like 8th gen. Like they don't want any PS4 stuff. They don't want any Xbox One stuff. They only want 7th gen and older. Whereas GameStop, they'll buy your PS4 stuff. They'll buy your Xbox One stuff. So it kind of just depends on how you're trying to consolidate. What I typically like to do is just, like I said, I go through my entire collection. One of the easiest ways that I find in doing that is to just use the Game Eye app. I just keep track of everything in my collection via Game Eye. And then I go through and say, okay, what games do I want to add? What value pieces do I want to add? And then what games am I willing to give up to add those pieces into my collection? And so that's typically one of the ways that I continue to collect, while at the same time, um, purifying my collection, keeping it within a certain number. I posted a video the couple weeks ago where I said that I have under 1,000 games, and people were like, "Man, you are not a casual collector, like 1,000 games, like." And I guess, like, you're right. If you're a person who you have like 50 games or something, or if you only have 20 games, hearing someone say that they have close to 1,000 games, yeah, that's gonna sound like a lot. But you have people who have tens of thousands of games. A lot of folks on YouTube, they have a lot of games. So it just kind of depends on you and where you're at with your collecting and where you're at with your collection. I'm at the stage in my collecting where I don't mind adding pieces like this to my collection, like the lower value stuff, certain low end games that I still think are really cool, like 99 Nights, Raiden, Dynasty Warriors. I don't mind adding games like this to my collection. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, things like that. Even Xenoblade Chronicles, of course, anything Dreamcast. Knights of the Round, this was definitely more of like a value piece. Knights of the Round, adding this one into the collection, right? So, and then like anything cartridge based is what I'm definitely interested in adding. But it's different strokes for different folks, and you kind of have to know how you want to build your collection. There's a show that I've been watching on Netflix. It's called The King of Collectibles. And that show has just kind of re-inspired me to continue on with the collecting journey, but it's also inspired me to start looking more for value pieces that I can add to the collection. And there's nothing wrong with it. I was shocked, like when watching that show, I'm shocked to see like some of the people that are collectors and to see what they collect. More people collect than you would actually think. Um, it's actually crazy that the collectors market is bigger than we realize, and there are so many items and pieces, collectible pieces, that go for ridiculous amounts on the private collectors market. You have like private auction houses and things like that. So obviously the goal for video games isn't only right to monetize it, but I am a collector. In fact, I'm the Y2K collector. So collecting is a huge part of what I do. And as I look at just the collecting aspect of gaming, there are definitely some value pieces that I want to add going into the end of the year. And I've already started doing it with some of the pickups that I've made. One of them being this piece here, Rapid Reload. This is an exclusive PAL addition to a game otherwise known as Gunner's Heaven. And honestly, getting this game like complete in box is like a $500 to $600 endeavor. Definitely not at that point, but I'm glad to have a copy with an original manual and an original disc and its original case. Unfortunately, I'll probably have to do like an aftermarket insert to be able to just add the insert to the game. But it is what it is. Hopefully later on down the road, I'll be able to upgrade this copy if I can find a complete in-box copy at a reasonable price. I just wasn't ready to drop that much money on this game, but this is a very, very fun game. So that's just one example. Of course, I've already shown you Knights of the Round, but I'll be looking more into consolidating and adding some value pieces. So when you're looking at hunting, video game hunting, in the fall, you don't have, like I said, you don't have the flea markets, the yard sales and things like that, but you can definitely hit up, obviously, your GameStops, take advantage of sales and promotions. Your mom and pop shops, take advantage of that. Thrift stores are probably going to dry up some, depending on, where you thrift at. Some of those places may get a little dry because not as many people are, keep bringing stuff to their local thrift store. And Facebook Marketplace actually might wind up being an option that some people have to try. I've actually been trying to find a good Facebook Market deal because I'm interested in buying like a large lot. Like I'm interested in buying someone's collection depending on what they have in there. Um, and in buying a collection, I'm looking more so for like older stuff. So I'm willing to cough up some cash for someone who has like a substantial Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, like Game Gear, even for anyone who has collections like that. I'm willing to kind of cough up if I can find a deal that makes sense. And I can do a easy and smooth transaction, right? So, and I'm willing to pay, right? Like I'm not unrealistic. I think, you know, depending on what someone has, I'm willing to pay 60%, 65%, maybe even 70% for someone's collection, just depending on what they have, the condition and stuff like that. And so I'm actively trying to find like a good deal for something like that. It's just hard in my area to find anything like that. I don't live in one of those parts of the country where I could just meet up with someone in a Walmart parking lot at like 11 o'clock at night and do that. Like I'm not doing something like that. Um, but if I can, you know, navigate a deal, I'm definitely willing to do one. So it's going to get tricky adding to the collection this fall. Definitely going to be depending on some trades, but whatever I can get my hands on, I will definitely share with the Y2K crew and let you all know what I find. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K collector. Let me know how you're going about game hunting. Let me know how you're going about collecting this season and what your strategy is going to be for the fall. That does it for me. I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.